What is going on, guys, and thank you so much for joining me for Making the Grade Episode 2, where we're going to tackle Marvel's Infinity War. Now, if you haven't seen this movie yet, I recommend you seeing it because this is going to have some spoilers in it if you have not seen it. I'm going to be going over all the various aspects I went over last week in regard to this movie. I will try my best to give not too many spoilers, but there is always the possibility, and I do not want to be accused of doing something horrible to the people who have not seen this film. So, with that being said, let's get right into it. The marketing and budgeting for Marvel's Infinity War is actually quite interesting. We don't have all of the complete numbers yet. As a production budget, I have not available, so we can't really get into that. And as far as what they've made so far, as of May 2nd, domestically, they have grossed $322 million, closer actually to $323 million. Worldwide, they are grossing right now $857,531,270. This film is definitely going to spawn a sequel. There's never a question about that. And I would like to say that the advertising for this movie was done very, very well. I can remember seeing promos, posters, and the average trailers that you would see everywhere, but you had a lot more contests and other various events than we usually saw with the first one that we did, which was A Quiet Place. There was a lot more advertising, probably because there's a lot more money pumped into this actual movie. So that's probably the reason why for that. I'm not going to go too much into the trailers. They never really divulge much of the plot of the movie. You know that the plot is that Thanos, leave in the comment description which way you believe it should be said. We know that Thanos is going to go after the 6 Infinity Stones, and we know that's going to be the plot, but they really don't go into any real spoilers in the trailers, which is what I like. If you want to know one thing that I like the most, is that I like when trailers don't give too much away of the movie. And you didn't really get too much given away in the movie. There were still a lot of plot twists that were fun and exciting, and if you haven't seen this movie, I recommend that you see it right away. For the marketing and budget for this movie, I give it, with the lack of information that I have on the budget, and marketing is still going on right now, I would give it a 4 out of 5, because I feel like they've done quite a good job with the money that they had to market this movie. As we move on from marketing to visuals, let me just tell you that this movie is a visual delight. There's never a point in the movie where I'm like, wow, this movie took a chance to slow down. Everything is done perfectly, wonderfully well. And I feel like that's because they took a lot of time into the CGI and the crafting. Most of the effects, and I don't have all of the knowledge here, but I believe that most of the effects are visual effects, and that is perfectly fine if that's how they want to do things. The one thing I will say that is if you see this movie in 3D, it might suffer just a tad bit because I don't know if it's just me, but the more people I ask, the more actiony the movie is, the more it suffers with 3D. I just think that the motion capture and the just overall aspect of it, this movie is probably better to see in just regular standard 2D, probably in an IMAX screen so you can see it on a bigger screen and a little louder. But the 3D, I think, just was a little too much for me. But the visual effects overall for the movie, everything's done well. The battle scenes are done fantastically. The designs for his Infinity Gauntlet and everything like that, beautiful. I would give this a 5 out of 5 for visual effects, guys. Moving on to lighting, and it's hard to judge a movie like this on lighting because all the characters were well lit. And that's one of the key parameters that I have against industry standards. Did this movie, out of 1 out of 5, do a great job? It's definitely indicative of going above a 3 for this movie. I never once said, wow, look at this. There's horrible lighting here. There's horrible lighting here. It's making me not want to watch this movie. I never had that. And one of the best lightings, unless it was a filter, which it could easily have been a filter, I don't know any of the behind-the-scenes stuff yet, is an end part of the movie where he accomplishes his goal and he goes, where I suspect, into one of the Infinity Stones. And it's tinted orange. It could easily be a filter, but it could also easily be light. Since I don't know, I cannot really judge that because I just don't know if it was a practical effect or if it was a edited after effect. So with that being said, I'm giving the lighting a 4 out of 5. I think the only way I give a movie a 5 out of 5 is if I think that I can see that this movie could be in black and white. That is how well lit a movie is. If your movie is so well lit that I think that you could take this to black and white and still have a great piece, then that's pretty much what's going to get you that 4 out of 5. They did do a better than average job, so I will be giving, again, a 4 out of 5. As we move on to score, I find this one also a very hard one to judge. I found this one very run-of-the-mill of your Marvel movie. Nothing out of the ordinary, nothing fantastic that's going to make me go, wow, that fit perfectly into this. So again, score, I'm really looking for something bold, and I don't feel like that's what Infinity War did with its score. They gave you safe, they gave you predictable Marvel score, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing bad about it, there's nothing really excellent and great about it. It's just a really well done score that gets you the run-of-the-mill score of 3 out of 5. Now we move on to sound mixing in Avengers Infinity War, and I'm going to tell you that I think they did a fantastic job. There's a lot of moving pieces to these movies that make it super believable, and sound mixing is one of the biggest things that a movie has that makes it believable. And this movie did it completely well, and it did it great. And I really did appreciate the sound mixing done by the editors. The sound of Doctor Strange's the sound of Doctor Strange's cape, not cap, moving throughout the movie by itself, I think is always just a great job of sound mixing and sound editing. The footsteps everywhere when Thanos is walking and he's crushing the ground because he's a little heavy and probably just a powerful entity, so they want to get that across. Those little things help a lot. Another good thing that I thought was great in the beginning of the movie, when we see the Marvel credits, usually we have this really triumphant music going on and we see everything happening, but it really starts to tone off well in this movie because they don't play that. They play the actual same thing that we see, except the Marvel Studios logo has a 10 in it instead of the in studio instead of the normal letters, celebrating their 10th anniversary. Congratulations, Marvel. But we see that there's no music, so right away you get this eerie tone, like something is happening. And then you hear this off-screen voice of, I don't know if it's Loki. It sounds a little like Loki. I don't know for sure, so don't quote me on that. As a distress signal, which does play later into the movie. So I think that's a great job, and I just give it a 5 out of 5. Now we move on to editing and pace, and I won't even make you guys wait. I'm giving this a 5 out of 5. I think that the editing was done very, very well, and that the pace of the movie just was pretty great. It's hard to make a movie with so many moving parts and so many characters and make it a great cohesive story. And that, you gotta give it up to the editors for that, because one bad edit and one bad scene placement of those edits can really ruin a movie. And the pacing, there's no shot that ever seems like it shouldn't be there. There's always constant action or constant comedy and constant all this thing. That has a lot to do with the story too, but it definitely has a lot to do with the editors. And the editors did a great, great job in cutting together this movie. Again, 5 out of 5. Now we move on to set design. And one thing that I'll say about this movie is that I really didn't notice too much in regards to set design of this film. There's nothing as much that stands out. Like more in the Black Panther movies, I feel like you have a lot more set design that stands out. Or even Ant-Man, you have a lot of different set design pieces that become critical to the story because he shrinks down and actually interacts with those set pieces. There's not really as many in this movie. Because of that reason, I'm giving it a run-of-the-mill score of 3 out of 5, because when there are set pieces that are great in the film, it does serve its purpose. But at the same time, there's not enough for me to instinctively say that this has a great set design crew that really did a great job with this movie. I'm going mostly based on the background, and you know that I have costume and makeup in a different category and all these other things broken down. In terms of just set design, I'm going to give this a 3 out of 5. Now we move on to acting, and boy oh boy, were there a lot of big name actors and actresses in this movie. It can be very challenging for a director to get all of those people to agree and to produce a very, very good product. And I say that the directors did a really good job in this. I feel like they balanced the on-screen time with all of the actors very well. I never really felt like I wanted to see somebody more on screen. There was never really a time where I Felt like Thor should have been there more, or Captain America, or Iron Man. I feel like they were all very balanced, and I feel like even the lower tiered characters were pretty well ingratiated into this piece. So I'm going to give the acting a 5 out of 5 because I thought they all acted well with each other, and the piece was really, really good with all of those elements together. And now we're going to move on to script. Now, the script is nothing like the comic books. I've read the comic books in preparation for this movie. It has the same overarching themes. So the script is doing a good job at adapting its source material. It has the same overarching themes. You have, instead of him trying to win over death, he's trying to, he thinks it's his noble duty, or his duty because he's the only one to act on it, to wipe out half of the population of the universe so there's less overpopulation and planets can thrive again. He does this because he feels like that's what the universe needs for balance. In the comic books, he does it because he wants to win over Death's affection, and Death wants balance restored to the population of the universe. I don't have a problem with that. I think the adaptation is fine. I think we see a lot of conflict, and I think they humanize Thanos a lot in this movie. I feel like when you see him trying to sacrifice his daughter, I'm sorry, I'm saying because I don't know how much I want to give away in my spoilers here. When he's trying to sacrifice Gamora on the mountaintop of the planet where the Soul Stone is, you can see that he has real conflict and real emotion as he sheds some tears crying, and then eventually throws her off the ledge to get the Soul Stone and complete his mission. So you can see that he has inner conflict, and that's one good thing that you can do to your villains. I felt like there was no plot holes in this movie, like A Quiet Place had a lot of plot holes. This movie might have had one plot hole, but it wasn't big enough for me to even get into now. So out of 5, I'm giving this movie a 4 out of 5. Now we move on to costume and makeup, and let me tell you, this movie had a lot of costume and makeup design. You had a lot of your favorite characters that you know and love from the Marvel Universe, plus Thanos, plus his evil army, plus all of these other characters, all the villagers from Black Panther's movies. You had a lot of moving parts, and I feel like they did a very, very good job. Just like every movie that they do, they did a great job with costume and makeup. Captain America in the more black suit because he's been pretty much burned by the U.S. government and working as his own private entity. I think that every costume was great. I love the costume design that they give the Wakandans. I think that they do a fantastic job with that. And out of 5, it's going to be a 5 because it's just pretty damn amazing what they can do. So when the dust clears and the fingers have been snapped, we leave Infinity War with an 80. It has a very, very good job with its acting crew and the costume and makeup design of the movie. It suffers a little bit in this film from good score, and set design. Other than that, it does above average in so many different categories. I think that it does great. Out of the 80, you know that we have an extra credit function here, and that is how rewatchable this movie is. Now, out of a 1 to 5 scale, I've seen this movie 3 times, but the third time I did find it a little laboring and tasking. It's not as rewatchable as A Quiet Place. I'm going to give it a 3 because its rewatchability is very high, but it's just a little tedious because of how long the runtime of the movie is. Giving it a final score of 83. So the making the grade score for Avengers Infinity War is going to be an 83, guys. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I hope you have a great, great day. In the comment section below, make sure to tell me what you thought of Avengers Infinity War. Thank you again, and you have a wonderful day. Stay beautiful.